Welcome back. My name is Levi from the Owl Revelations, or Paper Plane on Discord, and today we're going to get right into it. I'm actually going to go ahead and start setting up some of the foliage that we have here and get some of our foliage in that we want. I'm also going to fix a few issues that we had over here on the desert area and a little bit leading up to the dunes. And for this one, actually, starting next week, I'm actually going to be on vacation for a little bit. So there'll be a little bit of time off, and then when I come back, we're actually discussing doing a little bit different format. So I'm going to make these videos a little bit shorter, but they'll be more sequential in order, and they'll be a little bit more to the point. We'll also be moving up to 5.4. Currently, I'm still on 5.3, just because it's what I'm using right now for my game. But I know that 5.4 is the way of the future, so I'm going to go ahead and make that jump. But for right now, let's go ahead and get started and get these set up. I did want to mention, though, that whenever we start on the next series, so we're going to do a little bit smaller landscape, so it's a little bit easier to digest all the parts and pieces. This one's kind of big, so doing this as a video format, it takes me a long time to get some of the things done I want to because of how much space there is. So we'll go a little bit smaller, and we're going to go a little more in depth. I really want to do some of the path systems that they have. So there's some new path systems that are coming out and everything as well, and I want to kind of try and dive into that a bit and get my head around that with you guys, as well as working with the biomes and changing the landscape with the paths and stuff like that. So for right now, let's go ahead and just pop into this and get these trees and everything set up so we can see how that's done. And the first thing we're going to do is we were setting up for our shot last time, so we have all of these clouds here, which are rather expensive. So we're going to go ahead and just take those off for right now. We're just going to go no clouds, and as usual, we'll drop the sky down a bit like that so we don't get too much fog. Let's actually go a little further. There we go. So everything looks real nice, just like so. And we are going to go ahead and get rid of all of our trees right now, just because it does slow things down a little bit running all these trees. And we're going to make a lot of changes on them. So we're going to do a little bit of smaller space. So we're going to go on ahead jump into our biomes really quickly. And we can go to the tools right here and go ahead and clear the generated content from the selected components, which will get rid of all of the trees that we have there. All right, so we got all those taken care of. We can go ahead and, before we do anything, I'm going to go ahead and clear our selection. And I'm just going to make a selection for a moment. I'm going to try and get something that encompasses several different areas. So we're going to let's do our select here, and we're going to grab this one. And I think we'll do this one and this one, just these three right here, because this gives us kind of a little bit of desert area, a little bit of forest area, and a little bit of grass area. We might actually just incorporate a few more in there. That should be fine. And for now, we're going to jump out of that for this moment. So we're actually going to take a look at this. So the way that I did this last time, Daniel was actually nice enough to spend some time and kind of go through some suggestions on how to get this actually looking a little bit better than what we had, the way that I'm doing it. So we're going to go ahead and push G to get all of our brushes back up, which we should. Oh, got to go back into the landscape mode so we can see all of our brushes here. And then we can find the two right over here. These would be our two dune area ones, or wild canyon. And what we found, or what he was helping me out with, is getting the, instead of using the weight map the way that we had it. So I think we did, let me see, where is, the height maps are here, and we did the textures. Okay, yeah. So we doubled up on the textures, and that's completely fine. But instead, we're going to open up where we have our weight maps, and we're going to open up our layers. And in our layer fields, we were using a texture, and the textures were the curvature maps, and I think the other one is just a splat map. No. So they were two. We can actually get rid of this one, and we'll do that on both. Let's go ahead and grab the other one. And do we have two? Yes, we do. We'll go ahead and get rid of this one as well. And instead of using the curvature map like we were, which kind of fills to the edge or the border of the mask itself, we're going to go ahead and open this area up where we have all of our masks for this particular height map, and we're going to use the height map itself. So we have the canyon height map here, and we can actually go ahead and use that one. And what we can do, so right now it's showing the wrong way. We don't actually want it this way, but we can go into our adjustments and we can invert it, and then it will encompass the lower areas or the flatter areas, and the rocks will kind of stay the way they are, but it gives us a nice transition here on the edges. And we can further build that up as well. But the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and add it onto the texture one as well, just so we can get them even, to give us a good view of exactly what's going on here. And let me verify that's doing what we want. Yeah, oh yes, we have to invert that one. So back up to texture 1, and we'll go ahead and get the invert on that one. And now you can see it kind of cuts it away perfectly on this area here, which is exactly what we want. So we bring back some of this green grass and so on. And we can further accentuate this a bit on each one of these masks by using the multiplier system. So we have the contrast and multiplier just like last time. So the multiplier is going to make more of the positive areas. So anything that's like this, it's about 40-50%. The more multiplier you give, the more it's going to go towards 1. And the contrast is going to just sharpen up that edge a bit. So if we actually bring that multiplier up, you'll see it's starting to get a little bit darker. And if we bring our contrasting down, up is where we want to go. You can see we can get a really nice line. Little too hard. Let's just kind of feather it a little bit. Might bring this down a bit more. I went pretty heavy on that. We just want to kind of get that line about like so we can just get a nice fade out. We might actually go, yeah, let's put this up to like a 5, and we'll go ahead and bring this up more. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. That's why it's doing that. Let's do this one first. All right, so yeah, this is really nice right here. So we got a nice little transition. We can bring that down a little bit so it kind of grows up in there. We can also really fade it out. Give it a nice fade like that. Maybe a little bit more. About like this, so it just kind of fades a little bit up onto those rocks, and you'll see that the base is nice and exactly the way we want it. So generally I would actually spend a lot more time just kind of sculpting this area out as well. We're adding a few more brushes in here. But for time's sake, we're not going to do that on this one. Not sure why I have a mud spot in here, but that's okay. So let's go ahead up to this one, and we'll switch to that one. And we'll do the same thing. We're actually going to just copy these ones. So we got the contrast, shift and right click, and shift and left click to paste that. Go back to this one, shift right click, and back to this one, and we will shift left click again. And that gives us a nice transition right there. And that's already looking way better. So we can still use our mask if we need to cut some of this out, like this spot here. But you see we have a lot better base to work with. So it's not quite so square on the edge. It looks like it kind of fades out the way we want it to. So for right now, I'm just going to cut out a few of these. So I think that the wild texture 1 is going to be... Go ahead and close this one up, and we will go to our mask tool right here and see where we had all that. Let's go ahead and get this down to, let's get it to 1 so we can use our X to go back down to 0. And let's get all of this out. We don't need this anymore. This can all stay just fine. And once again, if the white is in your way and you need to get rid of that, you can toggle the mask preview right here so you don't see it. And we'll make this brush a little bit smaller and a little bit harder. That. And then we can just go ahead, paint out some of this area. And you can go as heavy as you want on this. I am going to not go too deep with it. Go ahead and hit X so we can get that brush back, and we'll just kind of skirt this area right here. Just like so. Whoops. little bit more up here. So the contrast is hitting me a little bit here, so I might have to kick that up just a little bit more. Actually, that's not too bad. And let's go back on this side. I think there's one or two here I want to get rid of. So we'll go to this one. Oops, that is the wrong direction. And just kill that a little bit. And we'll kill this one just a little bit too. And that is working with that contrast. So when you paint across it, it does change the shape a little more than what you would think, because it is taking that multiply and contrast as well. And kind of adding that in there. Like that. And that's a little too much for me. Go ahead and get that back on as best we can. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and kick up the multiply just a little bit more. Let's go ahead and select. And we had... This one is wild too. Let's go back into our weight paints, go back into our gravel and our adjustments, and we will go ahead and there's that one. And I am on the wrong thing, I believe. Ah, there it is. Okay, so this is to, let's go ahead and see what we can get here. Get that back down a bit. There it goes back up in there. So that does fit quite a bit better. You can actually go a lot more with that, but I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it. I am going to keep the sand dune area pretty much the way it is. I do have a different sand texture on there. I have to check and see what I got going on there. This one is Errant. I'm going to head to this one. I think we only had one tiling dunes. We do only have one. And we have... what do we do here? Well, I think we just painted all that in. Want to head back to our landscape real quick. Yes, we did just paint that in. Okay, that's why that is coming out like that. I'm going to go ahead and clear all from this layer. This is the wrong layer. And let me get the right one and go ahead and clear it. And we'll go back into our paint again and just go ahead and touch this part back up a little bit. I'm actually going to make that brush a bit more soft. It's like so. And we'll just go ahead and just want to kind of keep it up on this edge. You could actually use the height map on this as well. But I just want to go through and show that you can go ahead and paint it in as well. I mean, you can do it any way that works. And this is pretty simple. It's all just dune, so not that worried about it. Those in there. That load real quick. So with your sculpting tools, I would go back in with my sculpting and actually add like the little trail down here. So this is going to be your walking path to get down there, and maybe a few up here and maybe one back here. So you just have a little bit better gradient slope to do that. I can also, let me go back to the landscape really quickly. And in the select tool, we'll go ahead and select this one again. And I'm going to see if the same thing we did a minute ago works on this one as well. So if we do this and we do sand, just like so, that should take a moment. I think it was called sand, or was it called dunes? It was sand, yes. Perfect. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and go back to that. Go ahead and select this one again. And let's just try that really quickly. So if we go to our height map as we normally would, we can get our height map right here, which is the one we're going to use. And we'll go back down to our weight map and go ahead and add that texture in. And there you go. Now it gives a little bit more of a feather in the height. So we're going to do the same thing we did a moment ago. We're going to go ahead and do the adjustments here. And we don't want to invert this one because then we're going to get too little. We want to keep it a lot like it is. And we can just bring up that multiplier just like we did last time, which will give us a nice pull on that whole brush there. And then we can bring up that contrast a little bit as well too, to add a little bit more feathering on the edge, which the one actually seemed like that was about right. So you could actually go higher on the multiplier and bring your contrast up more to get an even harder edge, just like so. And then bring this up more to feather it where you want to get a hard edge like that. And I think that will actually work really well. That's pretty good. I'm gonna call that one. Lucked out there. So that does work on that well too. So that's definitely a viable option. And I didn't have to make another one to do a texture only on this one, because we're not going to use the mask on this one too much. But I do want to get rid of that little spot that was there. Perfect. All right, so now we can actually go ahead and start working on getting the foliage in there that we're going to actually use for the game. So if we go back into our biomes, let's go ahead and do that on our Errant biomes. And there we are here. We can go ahead, let's go ahead and generate what we had again. Shouldn't take too long on this since there's not a whole lot. And we should have some stuff here for the deserty area. Let me go ahead and get off the... let's just... let's click on biomes. No, that's not it. Let's click on setup. Yeah, there we go. So that'll let us see us really well without all that stuff in the way. So we can see where we're getting... so this is actually saying it's still a bit on the desert side, which is okay. We're getting a bit of these desert setups in here. So we're probably going to want to go and I don't think I actually added for the slope. I did not. So I have no slope stuff on the dune stuff. So we'll do that. And we also going to have to increase the weight that's needed to be able to be on the dune area so that we don't get it here in the grass. So that's fairly easy. So all we can do now is just go ahead and start adding in the items that we want to actually have here. So we're going to start with first, let's go ahead and just throw a few things in the dunes real quick, because I don't really have, or the desert, because I don't really have a whole lot of items for that. So let's go ahead and open that one up. We'll go into our desert sub-biome and we'll bring out our desert rocks. Which I think, what else did we have? We have our sub-biomes, desert rocks, deserts. And, oh, here they are. Go ahead and open these up real quick. So we can go in and see what kind of textures we have for rocks. Let's just go ahead and type in desert and see if we have anything that looks good. So these are all the ones that come with Errant, so that you can use those for previewing. And then these are the ones that we actually have in our packs. And this particular one is from the Brushify, which is a bit higher poly than what I was looking for. So these ones are from the Stylescapes, which is a little bit more in the mid-range of stylized and or not. And then we have some really cool ones here, like this Canyon Arch. Now this is something you would probably want to put in by hand, because they're fairly large and you're definitely going to want to put them in very specific locations. But I do think we have some pretty good mounds here somewhere that we can use for the larger rocks. Let's try this canyon rock right here. And we'll hop into this one real quick. These have RVT on them. I'm going to go ahead and just turn the RVT off just because we don't actually have RVT set up right now. Click on here and turn the RVT off. I forgot all the Stylescape stuff comes stock with RVT stuff. So let's go ahead and add just a few more of these really quickly. That's not the one we want. We want to go here and we'll go back down again. Let's do desert again. I should probably just go ahead and copy that and move down a little bit further so we get back into our desert rocks. We're right here. And let's see if we got a couple bigger ones. Let's put that one in. That looks pretty cool. And then we'll put this one. Whoops, wrong one again. Control V on that. Get our desert rocks back. And we'll go ahead and we'll try one of these large canyon cliffs. I'm pretty sure these are way too big, but we'll try one anyway. And then we can do just a couple of these cactuses. So we go back and we do our deserts again. So the ones that we're seeing right now are all the ones that are added with Errant. So these are very low poly for, you know, keeping your poly count down and not making it too expensive to run these. So let's go ahead and grab this one. And then we'll go back into this one. Do it again. And this should be our last one for this area. We'll just add all these into one thing since there's not a whole lot to set up here. Let's get this big one right here like this. So all of these still have RVTs on them. So I will have to open them very quickly and just turn off the RVT sets. There we go. And I do believe that the cacti also have RVT sets on, and they do. Get those off really quickly. We will be setting that up on the next one for sure. We'll probably do that right away at the very beginning on the next one to get the RVTs done so that they are out of the way. RVTs off on this one. Perfect. So now we can go ahead and take a look and see what we got real quick. We'll go ahead and regenerate to see all these change. And we should get our rocks and some pretty cool looking. And like I said, these are from the Stylescapes. So they're kind of in between more realistic, but they're also very stylized. And we can do all of our settings for them as well. Like you can see, these ones are kind of leaning over. We really don't want them to do that. Trees don't really do that very much. And here's our larger rock sets. And we don't really want those here in the grass at all either. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that real quick. So if we go back into our desert rocks, we can go down to our growth mask, which I believe we have this one set up. We don't actually even have this one set up at all. So we'll go ahead and plug that one in. We don't need any of these. So we're going to take these out like so. We can take all of these out. We don't need those. We don't even need that one. And we will go with I believe it was gravel that we had set there. And now we can actually set our values. So we have our value of 1, which is going to be the top end. We definitely want that. We don't want 0 on the bottom. We want it to be at least 0.6 or 7 so we can get it off the grass. And then that will go from 0.6 to 1 is the range that it'll look for. We also want to get our slope. So we didn't have the slope in here, and we made that in the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and actually steal that from the other code we have, just to make it a little easier. So we have that in the grasslands. We go back into the grass here, and we head on the forest trees. We can go into the mask for it, and we have our slope set here. Let's just go ahead and get all this. And we'll go ahead and go back into the desert rocks, this one, and set that one in there. So that's a Control V on that. And plug those up like so. This should get it off of those weird angles. Go ahead and regenerate real quickly so you can see exactly what that's going to look like. There we go. So now it should only spawn on the slightly more or less leaned over areas, but we do have some here And we're going to have to go into the properties on the foliage itself to change some of that. I'm not sure why these are still spawning in the grass though. I do know that there's a little bit, so you can actually see if you look down, it's a little brown. So I'm going to go ahead and make that a bit higher. I don't think that's quite high enough. Let's do the slope here, or the weights here, and let's do like 0.85 to 1, 0.85 to 1, and see if that kind of gets rid of some of that. And let's go ahead and generate again. And it is not. And the reason is because I actually have the biome mask. So that would be this one here, is in this area. So it's not actually spawning any of the grass stuff. It's only going to spawn. And that was my fault. So yes, I can actually do, let's go ahead and do the grassland area, and let's bring that back down, because this is the cutout we had originally when we were setting it up. And I'm going to go ahead and bring the radius down a bit on that. And maybe even, let's see what we got here. Yeah, there we go. And we'll just cut this back down into here, and that should take care of a lot of that. So this is kind of a slot mask, this one here. It's just to do areas very quickly that you want to get. It's not really for fine detail or anything like that. You would actually want to use your weight paints for that. And you can use weight paints mixed with a lot of variables and stuff to get a lot better or a lot more. But this is just to define very large areas that you want to be biomes. Like if you really wanted a snowy area only, and you want to paint it in very quickly, and you wanted, a desert area like we did here. For a large area, this works, but for fine detail, it's definitely much better to take your time and use the masks that are in the mask, that are actually in the mask for the biomes themselves, or for the foliage, the species. So we're just going to go ahead and just get some of this out of here, just so it looks nice and good again. Get all of our green out of here again. So this should work well. So we actually have it. We have an example of that actually. So if we go into the one for the grasslands, we also have the forest there as well. So the grasslands does the forest, and it does the grasslands area, so that we can get that to spawn in places where even if we painted just grasslands over it, it'll still spawn on the proper weight. Because we did want these heavy forest areas, like this one's here, and then we wanted the grass areas next to it, but we also wanted to make sure that the forest areas would still spawn anywhere that there was mud. So that works perfectly. We'll go ahead and hop out of there real quick. Let's go back into setup, and we'll hit generate again. And now we should actually see, there we go. Now we have plenty of trees and stuff there instead of cactuses and things like that. We could actually increase a lot of these, get a lot more of them. I am not really going to mess with that too much here, just because it's not really that big of a deal, and we don't have any down here because we don't actually have the mask down that far. We're just doing this area. What I do want to do though is I want to go ahead and start messing with the grassland area and get that a little bit more set up, because we have grass and forest in there. So like I said, right here, this is all painted in forest. So this is in the forest biomes mask. So if we go to forest biomes, you'll see where we have those spots painted. So it looks like we don't actually have any here, so it's just relying on the mud. But if we did go over here and you can see these spots, these will always be forest, and then this would always be grass. But since we have forest added into the grass, it's also still going to honor anywhere that there's mud. So it'll give it that nice separation and a little bit of randomness as well. So let's go ahead and drop back into our setup here, and we're going to stick with the grasslands. I'm going to drop everything off on the desert. Not too worried about that. So we got our grasslands sub-biome, and then we have our forest grasslands trees. These are the ones that we're going to mess with right now. But before we do the forest grassland trees, we're going to open them all up. So right now we have the forest, I believe. Yes, forest grassland trees. Let's close that one. We'll do this one. And we'll go ahead and open up our rocks as well. So in the rocks, we're just dealing with the rocks to kind of separate those out so that they're easy to deal with. And we can also just add in some really cool setups. We're going to try and stick probably with the Stylescape stuff. So I can actually show you what that is if you're actually interested in finding some of these. Stylescapes is one of my favorites to play around with. I actually use it in some realistic looking games as well because they are good enough to do that. So this is Errant Biomes. Let me go down and close the plugins. And right here we have our Stylescape HD. And if you go in, you can go into your foliage. And right now we're actually looking for rocks and we're in the grasslands. So we're going to try the grasslands foliage. And we have some pretty cool rocks here we can use. And as I said, they're kind of in between. They're not super realistic, but they're not quite as stylized as some of the other ones that we have. So we do have that we can play with. And if we go into our other pack, we have a pretty cool one too, which was the one that we got the grass and everything from, which is the Lush pack, which is just beautiful. And if we go in there, we can go in our foliage and we have, I think it's on grass, flowers, ivy, mesh. I think it's just in the mesh, rocks and stones. There you go. So we have these ones are a lot more stylized and these ones really match what we have right now. For me personally, they're a little too stylized. They don't have quite enough pizzazz to them. Let me go ahead and take off this RVT blending so we can see a little bit more what they actually look like. And they're just a little... They look great for certain types of games. To me, they're a little bit more flat. I'd like to have a little bit more contours and stuff. So I'm going to stick with these Stylescapes for the rocks. For the trees, we're going to use a lot more of the Lush because it goes with the grass really, really well. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's grab the... let's close down the Lush and we'll grab the Stylescapes into the Grasslands folder. And let's do a large cliff on this one because this was the larger of them. And I think these also have RVTs set on them right now. So we're going to take those off. Let's go ahead and hit that here and remove our RVT. And height. Well, you know, due to the RVTs, we may not use these after all. So I can set up RVTs on this level fairly quickly, but that will add quite a bit to this video. And I wanted to really get into adding these in. So you know what we'll do? We'll just, let's go ahead and actually use the brush files. That'll work fine. So, you know, maybe we will just go with the Stylescape stuff. The Lush stuff, because it probably will actually fit in a little better. So let's do that. Let's try the Lush and see what it looks like. And I can turn the RVTs off on that. All right, so let's try a big one like this. And then we'll grab one of these smaller ones right here. So you can add as many as you want. I am just going to add a few here. That is a bush. That is not a stone. A long rock. I think those are actually really small. Stone. Where's the big stones? Stone A, stone B. Small stones. Let's do these ones here. And then we have the long rock. How big are these? Ooh, these are really big. Okay, yeah, that works. And we'll go ahead and turn the RVT on that one off. Enable base color blending. RVT is here. There you go. Oops. Come on, get out of there. So yeah, that looks perfect. It does have some moss on top, so that's its own thing. And you can turn that off if you wanted to. So here's the render a texture on top. Turn that off, you have no moss. We're going to actually leave that on because it fits. Go ahead and save that one. And let's see how big those are. Let's generate them. I think those are pretty good size. There we go. That'll give us some nice ones. Oh, there they are right there. That's perfect. So you can actually do a lot of like ground cover type stuff as well. So we're going to do that really quickly with the grass. So right now we have some stones in there. Like I said, you can actually add a lot more iterations. Simple. You just go in and add a new array here and add in another item. And we are going to bring this one down a little bit more because that's just a little too much. We'll go ahead and open this one up real quick and we'll grab, let's say this one right here, and we'll drop that one in. And now we have 2 different iterations of that stone, and we have a little bit less of these because there was just too many. And we can go ahead and regenerate. There won't be quite as many close to each other, and we have the other stones in there like so. Perfect. That works perfectly perfect. And now we can move on to our grass, our trees. So let's work with let's close the grassland rocks. Let's work with the grassland trees, and then we'll go to the forest trees. So in the grassland trees, we can actually add a lot more stuff to the floor area to give it more variation on the floor. I don't have a whole lot of them in here, but generally what I would do is I would actually add them to another layer in the subbiomes here. So I would add my own subbiome, and I would call it ground assets or ground floor assets, something like that. And then we would go into the Quixel Bridge here. I don't think there's very many stylized items, but you can find a lot of very cool floor textures. So if we just type ground cover, stuff like that, or even embankments, you're going to find things like this. So these, and you can see your size right here. And this means that it's open on the back. So that means that it's not a full 3-dimensional model all the way around. It does have a bottom where you can actually see up through it. So if you do look on the bottom, you'll be able to see through the whole thing because of the way the normals are. But you can actually put these down and sink them into the ground a little bit, just so these stones stick up a little bit. And it really changes everything. And you can put a lot of them on the ground to give it more bumps and valleys and stuff like that. So that's definitely a viable option. Unfortunately, I don't really have a whole lot of those in these packs. So we're going to try and find a few other items that we can use. So we have the tree trunk here. Let's go ahead and find a tree trunk, because I know we have a couple really cool ones. And we're going to let's try the lush. Let's try and keep it in the lush. So we have foliage. We have trees right here. And I think there is actually, in one of the plants or something of that nature, we have some stumps. And we might not. And we don't actually need to use these flowers, because we already have a whole bunch of those spawned in the grass texture itself, or the grass layer. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'm just going to go to the stylized stylescape, and I know that I have some really cool stumps here somewhere, so I'm actually going to use these ones. So we have let's do one of these mossy stumps like so, and of course we have to turn the RVTs off on everything. I wish they would just come with the RVTs off, and then you can turn them on if you want them on. And of course it is let's turn that all the way down so we can use it. That'll probably work for us. And we're going to do the same thing on this one. We're going to bring this one back down a little bit too. So we want these pretty low. And we'll go ahead and grab another stump. Let's do one that is like this, that doesn't have moss all over it. And let's open up that one real quick, and we will drop down also the RVT on that one. Oh, it has a use RVT on this one. Interesting. Must have had it on the other one and I just missed it. That's fine. And we can do the same thing that we have here. So we have a few dead trees and stuff somewhere. Let's go ahead and find those. I think there's a bunch in the, let's say the forest. There's a bunch of dead trees. No, I do know I have some. Forest, grasslands, tropical. Well, I guess that I didn't have as many as I thought I did. This will probably work. Let's use that one. Let's go ahead and get the RVT off on this one, and this one has use RVT blending. And we will drop that right in here as well. And keep these at a fairly low value. So now we can actually start working on the trees we're going to use. So let's, before we even do trees, let's actually add in, just because we feel like it, let's add in some grasses so we can really get this looking like it has some oomph. So we're going to keep our grasses and plants up a bit higher. We're going to bring our trees down a bit more. Our trees, we're going to bring them down. Do a few variables like this. We'll have like a bigger tree or a deader tree here. And this is just set them up. So the plants we're going to want them a little bit higher. We're going to actually have them spawn a little bit more often. And we're going to go back into our foliage. We'll go into, let's do the stylescapes again. Let's do the lush, which is here. And we can go to, let's say, plants. And let's grab, well, I guess there's just these two. So we'll go ahead and add that one. And we'll go ahead and add this one as well. And then we have some bushes. So we have a little bit less on the bushes. So we'll probably use some of these. And we got some big fluffy bushes like this. And those are not statics. Let's do the statics here. And it kind of looks like these have RVT as well. Nope. All right. And they are a bit bugged out on these. So you see that they're kind of a bit too much wind on them. So you can actually go in and change that and make it a little bit less. I think whenever we actually put it in the world, since we have the world scaled up as big as we do, we're actually going to see that even exaggerated more. So let's go ahead and throw that in and see how far that is. Let's go ahead and actually generate a little bit and see some of the changes that we've made. Yes, it won't let us until we fill them all out. So that's fine. Let's just go ahead and add in a couple more of these bushes here. Let's do a bush here. And now we have our trees. I want more than 2 trees. So let's add a couple more of these. And we'll keep those fairly low. And let's keep these a little bit lower. I actually want there to be more bushes than trees in the grass area or the grassland. Let's go on ahead and go to our foliage and we'll get our trees and we'll do some really nice ones. There's some fluffy ones here. These are more for, I think these are more towards, yeah, this is more for like these swampy areas type thing. So I'm not going to use those. But we will definitely use some of these. So we'll add this one. Oops, those are not these ones we need. Do that one. We'll grab that one. We'll go ahead and just toss all these on here because these are really cool. And just because, let's throw one off. So we have a couple palms in here. And I want a palm that's more like these. Like these ones here. Not like a coconut palm, not in this area. So we'll actually do this one. Let's throw that one in there. And we're going to make this one, that is a static mesh foliage. That's not the one we want. This one, and we'll bring that down pretty far. We don't want those everywhere. Okay, now cool. We have everything set up, I believe. That's all of them. Let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what it looks like. Go ahead and generate. There we go. Oh, we do have a few more in there, so I must have missed a couple. That or those are in the forest. Go ahead and close these down one at a time until I find the one I'm missing. Are these? Oh, these are the wrong ones. Okay, my bad. I just didn't change those. That's these two. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab something else. Let's see. I'm gonna grab from the stylescapes. Let's go ahead and grab the grassland and let's get some trees from here. So these trees are a bit too realistic to really fit with what we have. But we do have some cool grasses and stuff like that that we can add in as well. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add in probably these two grasses or maybe one of these. Yeah, let's add in one of those and let's bring that way down because those are going to be everywhere. And we'll grab one of these too. And this one will keep fairly high to get it like that. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and regenerate that so we can get rid of those off ones. There we go. Now we're starting to get something a little bit more interesting. So if we go down here and let's jump off this real quick and let's go and run around for a minute. And now you can see we're definitely getting a bit more of a nice vibe. So one interesting thing though is that we do have world position offset on all of these. So they are moving around in the breeze and so on. And all of the trees that you see here are doing the same thing. So if we were to run the whole level right now, it would probably grind to about 5 frames per second because it's actually all these shadows are being rendered all of the time. So if you look right here on the edge, you'll see these shadows moving. And that is actually computing all of the time constantly. And that's interesting. I don't know what that is. That's a little bug. And I'm pretty sure that's because of the axe. I have an issue with the axe. That kind of bugs me out a little bit for the axe on that character. I had to make a setting and I forgot to reset that. So there's all of those. Now we got to get back in here and you can see how big these trees are. So let's go ahead and mess around with the forest area really quickly and get that done as well. And then we'll just run everything out. All right, so we're going to go ahead and deal with these trees right here. And then we'll spawn out the whole level and see what it looks like. I will go a little bit more in depth next time because I want to get through actually doing a lot of the culling and everything on all the trees, which I am not going to have time to get through on this one because this is actually running pretty long already. But like I said in the next video, we're actually going to kind of break them up a little bit more and do very specific things on each video. And I'll probably put out 4 or 5 videos at a time. So basically still an hour and 20 minutes worth of videos, but they'll just be in shorter segments of very specific items. So let's go ahead and run out these grass here. We have the forest trees. So I'm actually going to change these up and we have quite a few trees that we can play with. I don't think we had any of the lush though. I don't remember seeing trees that were kind of like conifer type trees. Let's go back into our trees. We have a lot of palms. We have these 2 big ones. So we don't really have a selection of conifer trees here, but we do have some in the other set. So I actually have another set as well that I forgot about. We also have the rainforest pack, but the rainforest pack is just way too expensive. For this to run all these out without doing a lot of setup. And we also have the Dreamscape series here. I think here's our Stylescape. So if we go to a forest, you'll see we have a bit more larger conifers, and we actually have the Alpine Snow, which has a lot more of a conifer type tree. And we have the Alpine itself, which are pretty much just straight up conifers. So you have some smaller ones like this, and you can get into the really large ones like this. So that's what we're going to use. Let's go ahead and use those big pines. And we're going to use mostly these 3 here. So we're gonna actually put all 3 of these. We'll do that one. We'll do that one. I think this one is actually a smaller tree. Yeah, this one's smaller. And we'll go ahead and do this one. Or this dead tree. And we're going to have to open each one of these because all of them have RVTs on. So even though this is not checked, it's still using the RVT since it's checked here. So you want to make sure that you have this unchecked. But if I were to uncheck this one, you see that it still goes back on. So you want to make sure that that's checked and this one's unchecked on a lot of these. I don't know why they do that. That's just kind of the way the booleans work on those. Let's go ahead and open this one. We'll jump in here. I think that did all of the trees. Let me just verify on the very last one just to make absolutely sure, and it did. So now we can start adding in some of our other types that we had. Go ahead and open these up. We're going to add several, maybe a few bushes and stuff as well. So we're going to keep the trees fairly dense. And we have this one here. I'm going to change that one out for one of these. Or actually, let's do this dead one. And we'll bring that way down. These ones are good. And we have some really cool bushes we can actually add in. So we're going to add all these ferns in, which I don't believe they have RVTs on. They do not, which is great. Let's go ahead and bring these down just a little bit. And we will add some of this extra mossy grass in. And we're going to bring that way down because we don't want too much of that since the way the muddiness is. And we'll use both of those. And we have other things here. So we got fallen trees. We can use those. Those will actually really make things pop a bit. And we'll go ahead and toss this other fallen tree in right here. And I think this one may have RVTs on it, and it does. Let's go ahead and set those off. And I want to check this one. I think it might as well, and it does not, because I guess that shares the parent for the trees themselves. And let's go ahead and drop one more in here. And we had a little bit of these clovers. I'm actually going to drop in, because these will really add a little sparkle. And we'll do those pretty low. We want to make sure that all of our, these ones can stay fairly high, but we do want the trees to be the highest because we want it to fill up a lot of space since this is a forest and we want it to be fairly dense. Like so, and that's good there. Let's go ahead and hop back into our biomes and re-render that and see what we got going on. Whoa. So we have actually not enough trees, in my opinion. So let's make them bigger. For one, they're actually kind of small compared to the other ones over there. You can actually see though that they do have a nice fade out. So it goes to no branches, no leaves to leaves. So these are actually pretty good for performance. But there aren't enough. So we are going to change that. Let's go ahead. We can actually just change the spacing here, but I do think that I have some spacing added in here somewhere. So it's 1 and 1 with a saturate. So that is fine. So we're just going to do, yeah, we're going to do the spacing here. Let's go ahead and make it less. Let's do like 75 or so. That's going to make it pretty heavy. Let's see how much more we get. Yeah, it's going to be a little too much. Actually, that doesn't look horrible, but still a little bit too much. So we're going to put it back up to 100. And what we want to do is we actually want to make these a bit bigger because they're just too small. So I'm going to go into the scale and we have our random scale sizes. And our max scale size, let's put our random to 1.5 all the way across the board. Oops. And we'll copy that and go ahead and set it on all of these. And we'll do 2 on the top end. And let's see if we just get it. That should fill it up a bit more and make it look a little more dense. Because those trees back there are huge and these are very small. There we go. That looks better. That looks like a forest. Very good. So the only one that we're missing right now is if we go into our biomes, we have a few of them here. And these are actually using a different set. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to cheat this one. And I'm going to go and I'm going to remove the set that we have. So if I go into the setup here, we have the forest. That's this biome that we had set there. And I'm going to add the grasslands one because it already has all the information that we need in it. So if I go into my grasslands, it already has these, but the forest is the only one that's going to spawn in the spots it needs to because there's mud there, so it'll work. So let me go to the grasslands subbiome. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And we'll go to the grasslands forest one, which is this one. And we're just going to paste that there like so. And now if we select this area, so let's see where that was again, that biome is there. And we can go ahead to the select tool. Let's go ahead and clear everything. We're going to grab the select here, and we're going to grab these where that was at. All that should be gone. No, it's not because I didn't clear it. That's fine. And let's go ahead and generate this area, and we should see it in the spot that we wanted. That is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So if I go back into the biomes itself, you can see that it actually did go in the spot that we wanted it to be, even though. And we have a very heavy forest going on here. Now these trees, I'm not really happy with them for the distance factor because you do see that they thin out. They are incredibly good for performance, but I would like to see them full or even with billboards in the background instead, just to be able to keep that nice full look. But it's still going to look really well when we walk around. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to select everything. And let's see how bad this is going to be. Let's go to the tools section and we're going to clear everything from the land. And we're going to go ahead and generate everything. So this will probably take a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward this part and I'll get right back to you when it's done. All right, we're back and I think that that's actually set up. It definitely dropped us down a bit on the frame rate. Let me go ahead and go back to the setup here. And let's drop this out so we can actually see what we have going on. So you can see, so it'll be pretty good when we're down here where it's actually culling some of the stuff out. We have everything being run right now. So as we go up, you can see every single item in the entire map. All of the trees and everything are there. And we are definitely hitting fairly hard. So if I show my FPS, you're going to see that I'm only running about 30, 22, 23 when I get up really high where we're seeing everything. Because it is calculating all of these trees moving. So every single one of them is moving. We're not going to get into fixing that one today because that's actually a video on its own. But we will do that in our next set because I do want to go into getting these a little bit more performant for doing large worlds like this. So I wouldn't actually show all of the trees either. I would actually cull some of them out. Only the larger trees in the background would be seen. All the smaller ones would not. Currently, right now, we're rendering everything. Every tree, bush, stump, everything's being rendered. So that's why it's really hitting me here. But that is okay. So I can actually, let's drop down towards the forest area and just take a look at it and see what it looks like. Because like this forest is way too realistic for this style. So let's go ahead and dive down in here and take a look at what these look like. So if we get down here pretty low, you can see what we have spawning out. So you can see it's very dense, a bit more dense than I would actually like it to be. But like I said, you can definitely spend a lot more time here to get this set up exactly the way you want. All of these bushes are a bit tall. So there is a lot of things you can do to, especially with RVTs, all these would blend in a lot better. Although the realism of these trees really wouldn't work that well with this particular texture anyway. But this is just to kind of show you how you can throw all those in there. Unfortunately, I didn't have any really good woody ones for stylized right now. But this is how you get pretty much a full landscape set up. And you can always go in and use your mask to clear some of these out. And you can go back in also with your foliage tool and paint in some custom stuff if you need for your POIs and things like that, which technically that's pretty much what I would do. I would clear out the area where I want my POIs. I know you can use biomes and to set specific things like that as well. But that we will go in on the next set when we get a little bit more into detail, especially on like the paths and stuff as well. But for right now, let me go ahead and get myself set up to get our shot so that we can put this up and get it up online. I think we'll do probably right about here. That looks really nice. And we'll go ahead and hit us back up pretty hard here because we're going to grab this one. Back you back up so we can get our fog to come back in. And we'll go ahead and put on our volumetric clouds. And raise it up a bit more until we get them. Oops, they're too high. Let's go about right about there. And we can drop this down to about 0.8 or 0.85. There we go. Maybe a little more than that. Get it up to about a 1. And that should do it. So this will be our shot right here. And we'll go ahead and get that. All right, perfect. So like I said, actually coming this weekend, I'm actually leaving. I'll be out of state for quite some time, probably about 2 weeks or so. And I'll get back on as soon as I come back, and we'll actually start on the shorter videos that are a little bit more concentrated on very specific things. It'll be a step-by-step, but it'll just be, like I said, like shorter. We'll focus on one thing and then the next thing and the next thing. And Errant's coming, and they got some Errant Paths is coming, and they got a lot of updates coming out as well that we'll be discussing and playing with here before too long. I'm really excited about that. That'll be awesome. And for now, I'm going to call it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.